Hello, everybody. Hey, it's so bright. My goodness, it's waking me up. It's good. Well, thank you for coming. Hope you had a nice lunch, and I see you still snacking. That's good. So we're here. We're in real life. That's exciting. That's the great thing about these events is that we get to see each other. I hope you've seen some people that you've met in social VR as well, because I have.
I have,
and
yeah,
you just did.
actually, yeah.
Someone here in the crowd over there. All right, so Jason, before we dive in, I'd love to poll our friends here.
Yes.
How many of you have been inside social VR in a headset before? Okay,
Cool.
okay, and okay, to make it easier, how many of you have not been in? Wow, okay, we got a few. So we have about a good majority have been in social VR and a few have not. And what about, are there any creators making social VR worlds out there? No? Okay, soon. All right, so stay tuned for that. Awesome, so it sounds like we have a lot of people who are here that have hung out in social VR. And so, yeah, that's exciting. Well, why don't we just dive in and tell us a little bit about Sansar. What is it? What do people do in there?
Yeah, so Sansar is a romantic and in many ways the most accurate way of kind of explaining it in a nutshell is it's a parallel universe to this one, consisting of thousands of user-created worlds and experiences. We opened the Sansar beta last August to anyone who wanted in. And since that time, our users have created over 16,000 worlds. Of those 16,000, over 1,300 or so, give or take a couple, are publicly accessible within a single click via our web atlas or the atlas built within the Sansar client. So in Sansar, people gather for events, hang out together, go exploring, play games, conduct commerce, which is very important for communities. They create the worlds. They really, do the things you do in real life, except do it through this, like I said, almost what's basically a parallel digital universe.
Wow. And pretend you see images of Sansar behind us, all around you. Augmented. Wow. Okay, well, that's interesting. So you mentioned this creation process. And so the name, by the way, of this talk is the Great Good Place. So meaning that third place between work and home where we can go, we can connect, and we can build relationships. And so in the context of social VR, we're seeing a lot of relationships form, meeting people. I met a guy in France who taught me how to play Frisbee in social VR once. That was fun. And what we're seeing, though, in social VR is that you can do things in VR that you can't do in real life. So what kind of things are you seeing people do that they wouldn't otherwise do?
Yeah, so I kind of wanted to step back to the premise of this third place a little bit. I mean, for many people, it is a third place. It's the place they hang out when they've done all their other, personal interactions, the socializing, and possibly going to work. But for some people, it's in Sansar and social platforms like it where they do their work, where they do their socialization, and it also functions as that sort of third place as well. And I think that's a really important notion to keep in mind, that these things will become, for lack of a better word, more normal. These digital platforms, just as email was once a very kind of outlier kind of thing, like the connecting with people, conducting business, socializing, relaxing, having fun, all these things will over time migrate onto these virtual experience platforms like Sansar. Now, back to your question about what do they do there. Our community right now has a plurality of creators. So they're building stuff. They're like I said, since we opened the doors to the beta, they've created over 16,000 places to go. There's some hello worlds in there, but that's fine. That's learning, right? And that's great. So they're building. We're doing the talk right before this one. Heritage preservation. There's heritage preservation data in there. There's live events. Education. We just did an event at VRLA where we were guiding visitors to the Intel booth, the Classroom of the Future, where we were meeting with curators at the Smithsonian, and they were guiding these visitors at the booth in LA. They were in Washington, D.C. Our visitors were in LA, and they were learning about art. I mean, it's really the things you do in real life, you can do in VR. In these social platforms.
Man, you said 16,000?
Yeah,
How do you choose where to go?
Well, so, yeah.
I'm overwhelmed with so many
that's an
things to explore.
interesting, that's an interesting problem, Google made its fortune selling ads against that problem, right? So how do you, when you have this deep body of content, how do you discover the things that are relevant? And, but that's a topic for another day.
For sure, yeah. There's plenty of social VR topics out there. So recently, one of the other use cases that came up was connecting esports gamers with their fans. So whereas they would usually connect in 2D via a chat of some sort, now they're able to meet almost in real life.
Yeah.
Can you explain that connection and why that's more impactful?
We're really excited about esports in general because social VR and in Sansar, where you can have a really high fidelity experience. Yeah, that's kind of funny I said that, but high quality visuals with even high quality sound, amazing visual sensorial presentation. There you go. So when you look at let's say I'm an esports fan, I'm going to go watch the match. Well, I fire up a browser and I get a little chat stream next. Or if I'm lucky, I'm in one of the cities that happens to have an arena where I can go and really participate in this communal, social, really energized kind of experience, right? Like going to a stadium to watch a game is a wholly different experience than watching it on your TV at home. They're both very exciting in their own rights, but through VR, we can get something that's closer to that stadium experience. They can get the camaraderie, they can have the show-off team rivalries and things like that. It has a underlying it's just baked into it a degree of social connection that is otherwise not entirely there through just some sad emojis running off the side of the screen or something like that.
Yeah.
Now, it's kind of great, you can invest so much energy and emotion and meaning into these emojis, but social VR, when you start to have the gestures that come through with the motion track controllers and the head motions, and then you layer on even more sensors. It's like, of all our communication platforms and technologies we've developed as a species, it's like the highest bandwidth one. More of your intent and message comes through very often than in any other medium.
That's true.
And we suspect, esports guys like to communicate too, so that's good. But you also get, and this is something that's important, I mentioned commerce earlier and creation and creativity. So then you get the advantages of, creating a virtual venue that is purpose-built for a particular team or game or tournament, where it's just you dial it all the way up, and you can achieve maximal impact from a, this sounds a little bad, but from a branding or communication or promotional kind of stance, as well as you have opportunities to show your team loyalty. You go on the store, buy that T-shirt, buy that hat, buy the face paint set, or dress up as in one of the costumes of one of the heroes in one of the games that your player uses. That kind of scenario, just as you see at a football game, becomes possible. That, again, something that's difficult in the current modes of presenting esport.
Interesting. I'll have to check that out because I don't know.
It's pretty exciting. You can start to see like all these logical progressions and these really great analogies and stuff. Yeah,
and coming from the creation standpoint, it's hard to predict how. I mean, we're still trying to all figure out how VR and AR are going to fit into our lives and what people are going to do with it. Have you seen any emergent behaviors or things that you didn't expect your community to go forth and create?
Yeah, so it's been interesting. So on our platform, different platforms I'm sure see different emergent behaviors, and I'm sure those are some manifestation of the strengths or the inherent strengths of that platform. And one of the strengths of our platform of Sansar is the ease with which someone can develop and publish an experience that people can go and visit. By virtue of that workflow being so streamlined and so easy, and hosting being built in, you don't have to worry about any of that. We take care of all that. Just gathering together as a group and just basically going on these virtual safaris as a group and commenting and just hanging out and seeing what's, basically do like a pub crawl or in our local, in our nomenclature, atlas hopping is really one of the things is popped up to be really, really fun and kind of enduring practice. And and it encourages, it's a really great positive feedback loop into the community. So you got community creators, and then, hey, come check mine out. Okay, now, hey, well, so-and-so just did this, let's go there. And then you start to see a really great dialogue start to occur between the members of the community and see that reflected back in the things that they're building.
I love when the community just kind of takes it and goes with it and starts to bring other people on board.
Yeah, and as we've expanded the capabilities of Sansar, we're starting to see people make games and starting to see people take on, do live performances and talent shows and things like that.
Probably film cool festivals. Magic shows in there. Yeah. You can do anything, I mean.
Well, but more or less, yeah. Like I said, you do it here, you could do it there to some degree or another, or do other things altogether. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I have another question. So sometimes when I go into social VR, actually a lot of times, I feel pretty awkward if I feel like I don't belong there. Like it feels like you're just walking into someone's house and you're there and they might not know you're there. It's just that weird tension that you feel. Maybe, I don't know if that's because of it's the early stages of all these platforms, but we're starting to see all these platforms build certain tools or ways for people to connect, to get over that barrier, and especially to help those who might have social anxiety, or maybe it's women or minorities who have already been getting a little bit of harassment in these worlds. So what's your process for preventing those sorts of things from happening?
So I think one thing you said there that was particularly interesting is this sensation of somehow you're an interloper, you're somehow invading someone's private space. And I think that's kind of speaks to how intimately or how effectively these technologies or these concepts connect with us as into our kind of our emotional like lizard brains or something. That when you walk into someone's personal space they've created, all even if it is virtual, you feel like, oh, I probably shouldn't be here. I haven't been invited here.
Just teleport away.
And that's powerful. I mean, that's a powerful sensation. Now back to, and that's ultimately, I think, speaks to the efficacy of the technology and the concepts that are contained in these platforms. In regards to the safety questions, there's Linden Lab, the makers of Sansar, we've been operating Second Life now for 15 years. And one thing we can tell you is the addition of headsets hasn't fundamentally altered some of these underlying issues of comfort and safety and harassment and fraud and all these types of things. And one thing we've seen is that there is no magic bullet. There is no one solution. And you have to be really careful as to how aggressive you get with some of these systemic kind of solutions to these problems, because are such things as false positives. There are such things as, I didn't know. Or rather, I should say, it's more like when you go in, context is very important. You might go into one place where a certain type of behavior is totally fine, and then you go into another context, and that same behavior is no longer fine, is like way, way, way not fine, right? And do you, because it's not okay here, say it's not okay there too?
Right. How do you know?
It's really tough. And so I think, reading people talk about social VR and how we're going to solve this with technology, when we think about like news feeds and the algorithms behind that, how much do we trust those to make wise decisions for us? So, adding in that kind of intermediation between our interpersonal connections, it's kind of an interesting challenge. The piece that's really important is self-policing. Is that, and we've seen success with this, whereby you give people the tools to, hey, someone's bugging you, make them go away, at least for you. Or the person who is the admin or the owner of the experience, that they can kind of decide what is or is not appropriate within certain general bounds of, So it's definitely about giving people the tools to cope with it, just as we do in real life. We have all kinds of social pressures that come into real life where people will just start to ignore the person who is being obnoxious or asking annoying questions or whatever they might be doing. Everyone just kind of turns their back to them. Similar things happen in VR as well. It's interesting and evolving, and no magic bullet. And people talk about bubbles, safety bubbles, and things like that, and those are useful, but they're as often annoying and wrong, or not actually helping the situation almost as frequently as they do, it seems. So it's a difficult balance to strike.
And so do you get feedback from your community over time, or do you find them doing that self-policing more because they're the owners of their own?
Yeah, so it's relatively early days for Sansar, and we're still building out a lot of that moderation tool set, but it is a very high priority for us, and I imagine for the other platforms as well. But feedback, yes, we are always getting feedback, and we take feedback in that area. And along those themes is really important. It's very valuable, and we're seeing all kinds of insights. And as our users put on events, and as we do events, it's some interesting challenges.
Well, we're going to be seeing a lot more of that, I'm sure. But we just got to be good people in social VR, right? Got to help each other out, have each other's backs.
Well, people are going to be who they are.
They're going to. That's true. It's going to come into
right,
VR.
and that's great. But give you some tools, deal with it.
So on a more positive note, since we're running a little bit out of time, do you have any favorite memories or moments or real life stories that have come out of Sansar in terms of people meeting? Like earlier we heard that someone met their now husband in VR.
Yeah, during our beta, people met, fell in love, got married. No, it's great.
How many? Were there more than just one?
Well, it sounds like.
Oh, wow.
I'm hearing all kinds of new rumors.
Yeah.
Favorite memory, getting to know the community, helping them get familiar, seeing their creations really kind of improve in leaps and bounds over months of just getting familiar with how things go. It's really exciting to see.
Well, I'm excited to hop in and explore all 16,000 worlds. Challenge accepted. So we have, I think, 5 more minutes or so we can take Q&A from the audience. I'm sure some of you as social VR users might have some questions. I don't think we have a mic, but you can just shout. Let's just shout. Oh, you do have a mic. Oh, yes.
They just want us to record it.
Thank you. Okay. Cool. It's very bright.
Hey, so I'm kind of interested in the bad behavior people and how we deal with them. And within normal society, we have the police that we can turn to.
Yep.
How, as there's jerks in VR, can platforms target criminal behavior that maybe is criminal in one jurisdiction but isn't criminal behavior in another jurisdiction? How is that kind of handled, and how can we bring tools in to deal with those kind of criminal situations that cross a very fixed boundary?
So, you know, I guess when you say criminal, like how criminal are we talking about?
Criminal harassment, perhaps. Where I'm constantly bugging you, which makes crossing the line from one jurisdiction but not another.
Sure. So in Linden Lab has a very experienced customer service department. We try to stay on top of those types of complaints, and we can, if someone is a serial offender, there's things we can do. Now, I think it's also very useful to empower the person who is the admin of one region versus another, or one experience versus another experience, such that they could ban a person from ever coming back to that space. Whereas, over here, maybe it's okay, whatever it is that is accepted, I should say, is over here. We are building out and already have some basic access controls such that a person can say, that person, they're permanently barred from entering. And that's just the first layer, Then there's, things we could layer on top of that, But it's all kind of variations on that. And you start to be able to do like hardware-based blocking, and that's very useful as well. It's speed bumps. There's no walls. It's all just, you pile up, make a road of a lot of speed bumps so that it just kind of takes some of the fun out of trying to cause other people frustration.
Good question. All right. Thanks, Linda.
So other than generating more content, what can us social VR enthusiasts do to help grow social VR?
Well, I think ask your friend to go in there. Next time you gonna do a Google Hangout, meet in social VR. You're doing a design review of a 3D asset, let's just say. Hey, do that review instead of a screen share. Upload it to your, to Sansar, where it'll look really great. And then do your critique there. Use it like you would Hangout, a video chat or a phone call. Next time you want to maybe play a game, go exploring place to place, but invite friends. Invite friends.
And if these friends don't have headsets, there are some desktop solutions to accessing, like.
Exactly. Sansar supports desktop, so you don't even have to have a VR. And I think people, we have some experiences, really high-end experiences in there that are unique to the platform. You can't do them in real life. We have we've collaborated. The studio, I'm the head of Sansar Studios, and we've worked with some really great teams to do some stuff that you can't do anywhere else. It's pretty exciting stuff.
Yeah. I personally also love when someone helps me when I get into a space and I'm like, I don't know what to do. Sometimes this random person who doesn't even work for the company comes up and gives me a little tour. Like, I'll never forget this one tour I was given. And I think it was VR chat, actually. just be a good person, and when people see that, they'll hopefully do the same.